One of Donald Trump's impeachment defense attorneys, David Schoen, has been canceled for his defense of the President of the United States. Yeah, you heard that right. His selection of client is too problematic and troubling for what he was going to do. We'll talk about what that was in a second. But first, I'm Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer and a legal and political commentator here on YouTube. If you like legal and political commentary, analysis, opinion, and news, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Now, let me digress for a minute. Back when I went to law school, which sounds like a really old thing to say, but it's more a symbol of how fast the times are moving. We were trained with the idea, actually the core sort of notions, that the client is the entire portion of your representation that matters. You are representative of someone else's interests. That's your job. The interests of the client are paramount to interests of yourself. And in all things, you must represent their interests, even if they run contrary to your own, even if they're different than yours. You are their advocate and their agent. You're acting on their behalf, not on your behalf. These are critical ideas central to the ability to do their job. Every defense attorney who represents a murderer doesn't endorse murder or the murderer. They endorse and represent the rule of law and the presumption of innocence. There are critical factors in the process that need to be observed. There are fact patterns that need to be laid out before we can convict someone. And if we can't do it, they're innocent. It's important to remember that David Schoen did his job and clearly did his job effectively, as Trump was acquitted of the impeachment. Ultimately, he was not guilty of inciting the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. And we know this because they failed to convict. That's the end of it. That's what the presumption of innocence means. Despite attempts by the media, by the Democrats, by even some Republicans to retroactively make Trump guilty in the realm of public opinion, they were unable to do it where it mattered. And that was on the Senate floor, even if that trial was somewhat of a sham. But it wasn't a sham in favor of Donald Trump. In fact, quite the opposite. There were no due process protections. There were no rules of evidence. There was nothing that would typically protect a defendant in a case available to Mr. Trump except for his legal team. And since they're the only avenue available for his protection, they are, of course, ripe for dissection and abuse by the media and cancel culture in general. Now, we're going to take a look at what happened. This article's from Newsmax. It'll be in the description if you want to read it. We're going to actually read pretty much all of it because I think this is really important. I don't like to read full articles on short videos. This one's not very long, but I think everything that Schoen says here really matters. Okay? So it says, this is from Schoen. Far from hurting former President Donald Trump, the Democrats' attempt to bring him down with a second impeachment trial actually has been a benefit to the former president, though it has gotten one of his attorneys canceled, Trump lawyer David Schoen tells Newsmax. This political weaponization of impeachment struck at the heart of the institution of the presidency, put it at risk and may have put it at risk in the future, David Schoen said Thursday on Greg Kelly Reports. But I think you're going to see now is a backlash, adding that Trump has gained momentum from the win. Now, he's talking about how dangerous it is to have wanton impeachments, and especially post-presidential impeachments. These were core elements of Trump's defense. And again, they did an effective job because they gave Republicans what was needed to vote against the impeachment. And critically, one of those main ideas was the unconstitutionality of trying a president who was no longer in office in the Senate. That's not what impeachment is for. Despite what the House managers say, impeachment was to remove sitting officials, not go after people who are no longer sitting. So going back to what he says, let's face it. Let's look at who he is. They knew who he was when they elected him, and he wasn't one of them, Schoen told host Greg Kelly. But look at what he did in office. He's the first so-called politician who kept his word, said Schoen, pointing to Trump making other members of NATO pay their share and moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. They're going to empower him because everyone saw that the attack was unfair in this impeachment process, he said. And I think we're starting to see that. I think we are starting to see Donald Trump's support actually galvanize. And I've seen articles out there, very hand-wringing and frantic articles, saying how the GOP can no longer afford to lose President Trump. They can't separate him from the party because his support amongst his supporters is still high. And if the Republican Party were to shun President Trump, as people like Mitch McConnell are doing, they will lose popularity. They will suffer the wrath of that. And that is actually quantified very well for Mitch specifically. And he has his lowest opinion ratings, I think, ever following his speech, following the impeachment trial of Donald Trump. Trump is set up to be a quote unquote kingmaker for the Republican Party, controlling, and I say controlling, heavily influencing a vast swath of Republicans, specifically ones who are fed up with the politics of the old days. That even though Republicans and Democrats right now seem to be trying to make a return to that, a big chunk of the country doesn't like it. We're tired of these people. We're tired of how they rule over us instead of work for us. And I think that's what Schoen's talking about. On the other side, of course, Schoen has seen himself a victim of the cancel culture, having an offer to teach civil rights law class revoked after he accepted the job of defending Trump. He says, "I thought it was a sad commentary, quite frankly, but I also wouldn't want students to be uncomfortable. What's changed is the concept of liberalism. You know, liberalism used to favor the marketplace of ideas. They would want to hear all sides of the story. Everyone has something to bring to the table. Not anymore." And that is exactly the issue. David Schoen nails it, says roughly what I was saying early on in the video. If we go into this realm where ideas that are unpopular or that run, not even unpopular, because the idea of defending Donald Trump is not unpopular. It's actually still a very popular idea. If it runs counter to the select few who get to control narratives, and we just shut those ideas out of the public space, then we're actually doing a disservice to ideas of critical thought. We're doing a disservice to the core concepts of liberalism, and that's lowercase l liberalism, which is rooted in freedom, not in control, like modern American liberalism is. It's a shame to see David Schoen canceled, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Should he have been canceled? Did he do a good job? I thought he did a swell job defending the president. His first day was a little bit rocky, although it was better than Bruce Castor's. His second day was actually quite incising, right? He was like a scalpel, taking apart some of the narratives of the Democrat House managers, and I think he complimented Michael van der Veen very, very well. So, what do you guys think? Drop a comment down below. We'll talk soon. Peace. Peace.